Hey everybody, and welcome back to another custom build with the one and only Pencil Knight. Now, before we get started, just so you know, this shirt is not my logo. However, it has a P on it, and it's comfortable, and I like wearing it. Now, moving on to important business. If you like what I do, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and help grow this channel. It'll make me very happy. Now, moving on to why you're here. So for the Strike Freedom / Mighty Strike Freedom, we're gonna break up the video into two parts because this time around the construction process was pretty lengthy. So we'll do a part 1 and part 2. In part 1, we'll be focusing on the main body of just the Strike Freedom, and in part 2, we'll be focusing on both the Strike Freedom's backpack and the Proud Defender. And so, with that said, for this video's giveaway, we'll be giving away the HG Strike Freedom. It's an older kit, not too old, but best part about this kit is that the backpack's fully compatible with the Mighty Strike, so pretty sure you already knew that, but it's a good thing. Saved me a lot of trouble. And obviously for part 2, you know what the giveaway will be for that video. But just to make it interesting, I'll throw a little something extra to make it more interesting. And now, on to the construction. Alright, starting out, we're going to go ahead and recreate the disruptor cannon effect from the movie Gundam Seed Freedom. First, we're going to go ahead and modify the head. The biggest change we're going to make is modifying the yellow blade antennas. And instead of using the tab connection, we're going to eliminate the tabs altogether and replace them with a magnetic connection, making it easier to switch from active to deactive mode. Okay, now that we have our magnet connections working properly, keep in mind, once we paint the entire head, the blade antenna and the actual crest, we're gonna have to go back and clean away some of the paint that gets inside of the magnet connection ports. The reason for this is because the connection is such a tight fit, anything that gets inside that area will cause the blade antenna to float or not fit properly, and that's not the look that we want. Once the blade antenna is prepped and ready to go, we're going to go ahead and apply UV resin. You want to use a toothpick or something like a needle to slowly apply the resin to fill in the triangular hole. You want to really go slow at this part because what we don't want to happen is we use too much and then the yellow antenna won't fit onto the head properly. So we're going to go ahead and recast this entire part. From there, we're going to go and paint the camera sections of the part blue, and then we're going to paint the eye section yellow. By doing it this way, instead of using 2 different color LEDs, we can get away with using one, and we can save on space and use less LEDs in the process, which is always a good thing. Now that we have our head unit fully assembled, I just want to say my favorite part about this section is the magnet connection point for the yellow blade antenna. To be able to switch from active to deactive mode with just magnets instead of using the peg system is a really good feeling, and you don't have to dread potentially breaking them. So I'm really happy with how this turned out. Because I'm a glutton for punishment, we're gonna go ahead and recreate the thruster effect in both legs, starting out by cutting slits into the front calf area of the legs. From there, we'll use UV resin to fill in those areas, so that way when we add our LEDs, we'll have us a nice clean glow, which will look good. Once we're finished with the modifications to the legs, we're going to go ahead and add switches to the back area of the leg, which will allow us control over the different functions that we're going to add to the Strike Freedom over the course of this build. So this part's a little tricky. To start, we're going to go ahead and add our wiring into the knee area, close that area off, and then build the rest of the leg around the wiring. So it's a little different from our usual process, but it's something that we can manage with no problem. As we get started on the pelvis section, we're going to go ahead and add another switch after making modifications to the back panel. This switch will be our control for the disruptor cannon for the head once we connect the entire body together. So for this part, we're going to go ahead and hollow out as much of the pelvis as we possibly can, but we also want to make sure we don't compromise the integrity of the pelvis area, because we need it to be able to reconnect once we approach that point in the build. The pelvis area will be a focal point for most of the cables as an area to pass through. So we're gonna need as much space as we possibly can get, but we have to really take our time because it's very easy to overdo it and make the piece unusable. Now it's time to start cleaning up our wires. To start, we're going to go ahead and connect our rail guns first and close that area off, and then take our next positive and negative wires and run those up into the main body, where we'll reconnect it with the torso, arms, head, etc. The shoulder is probably the easiest part about the build. To start, we're going to go ahead and recast the shoulder thruster in resin, and from there we'll mask it, paint it in preparation so that we can install it to the shoulder. Just like the pelvis section, we're going to go ahead and hollow out the upper torso in the same way without compromising the part. Our primary focus will be the two vents on the breastplate area. We're going to just completely get rid of all of that and then replace it with resin, so that once we paint it, we can add our LEDs so we can have a nice clean glow for more thrusters. Now we're going to go ahead and recast the abdomen cannon in resin so that we can have that pink glow effect shine through the part. as if the Strike Freedom is about to fire. In addition, we're going to go ahead and create a slit through the cannon section along with the torso to recreate that battle damage that the Strike Freedom incurs in its final battle against the big bad in the climax of the film. For the wires coming out of the torso, we're going to add a piece of heat shrink. By doing this, once we attach the upper torso, the heat shrink will provide a layer of protection for the cables, so when the pelvis twists, we don't have to worry about the wires fraying over time and then no longer be functional. As we start to wrap up this build, we're going to go ahead and clean up our wires. We're going to trim them down and start connecting them to their appropriate connection points so that we can bring on the most important part, which is the back. And we're going to integrate a female micro connector into the back and then close off the entire model. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and do some tests to make sure that the female connector is aligned with the male connector in the Strike Freedom's backpack. You want to make sure you do multiple tests, because once we connect the back, there is no going back, no pun intended, on making any changes. And don't worry, for part 2 of this video, I'll be showing the entire process of how I built the Strike Freedom's backpack along with the Proud Defender as well. Now that we know that our connectors are aligned and connect properly, we can go ahead and attach the last piece of armor, and then that will wrap up the full construction of the Strike Freedom.